guys, and the beyond. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are
It's just
doing
you and I. No pressure.
you and I today. We've got Rose coming on shortly, but it's myself and Penelope today. You guys can call her Penny. Drop a like, drop a comment as you enter in, and those on the replay, say hello, say hi, and let us know your thoughts. So we are going to a short clip, just talk about this video, which I thought was quite interesting, as both of us are black women. Rose is a black woman who's going to come, and given the whole I don't think we talked about it. I talked about it in the live, but given the whole kind of controversy that transpired of passport bros, I wanted to know what people think about. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same thing, but the same sentiment in passport girlies. So I am going to play it, just making sure where we are actually making ourselves a bit bigger. How big do we make ourselves? Yeah, we make ourselves bigger. Oh, so let me put me. So maybe make it like that. Okay, cool. So let me play it. Where is it?
Why did you get to that place where you thought to yourself, well, I might be single forever?
Pretty privileged and like growing up and then dating. I was literally never desired. Like I was the girl that guys came to spit at my homegirls. And I was crying out. I'm like, God, if I'm the person that you need me to be single until I die. But I was like at that level of peace and acceptance that like this happily ever after isn't for everyone.
A lot of Black women say that they get much more love and appreciation from non-American men. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, you know what's interesting?
Are you live or not yet?
I think Black women do get...
Yeah, I'm live. It's live. Let me just...
taken for granted in the US. And there is an appreciation and an adoration and an admiration that international men do have for Black women. And this is fetish aside, you know, hypersexualization aside, there is this like, oh my goodness, you're a goddess. And what have I done to be so lucky to be in your presence? And that can be overwhelming because you might not be used to that.
At whatever point, I guess when you had that conversation with God, you said, I want my next greatest adventure to be love.
There's this thing called a Eurail pass. And you basically can take a first-class train to 33 countries. I think at any given moment, I was probably chatting with 12 like quality men. And I took away preferences. Like after I realized that...
At any given moment, I was talking to 12 quality men.
Black women, please
We're not
go to Europe.
Pretend that this is not a bar.
Okay. So, what's your thoughts?
Girl. Where do we start? So what's the ultimate question?
So I guess the question is, do you think, and I'll put it down, do you think that Black women get more love by non-Black men? Do Black women get more love by non-Black men? I mean, obviously her context is American, but obviously we're in the UK, somewhat similar in terms of Western. Do you think that Black women get more love by non-Black men? Because she's talking about our part of the world. She's talking about Europe, and we know Europe. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, and this is going to be all the way controversial. I don't know if it's to do with race. I think when we're saying love, so in terms of relationships, so she's saying she's successfully met somebody who's non-Black, and as a result, she's like, guys, let's. I'm just letting you know that this is how you need to do it. I don't believe that's true. I think. And I let me start off by saying it's a fantasy, okay? Relationships are tough, whether you're Black, white, Asian, or bloody, I don't even know what, right? Relationships are tough. It has nothing to do with race. I think there's a need to paint a picture that grass is green on the other end, because maybe within the community, we've all just struggled. There's just been a gender war. And for me, what I'm getting from this conversation, I mean, the key thing that I need us to also hear is she said, I let go of preferences. And I find that a lot. When we start to date in other races, we don't have preferences, or we don't have that much demand that we have for our own kind. So then love becomes easy because your requirements are simple. To say then that your relationship will be solved, or all your problems will be solved, I don't believe that's true. I'm raised by a white Caucasian father from the age of 7. I will vouch and tell you that even within that relationship with my mom and my stepdad, there was problems. It was not to do with race. And I don't want to start painting this false narrative, because I think we're all seeking for this answer and this 5-step to success and to relationship. It's not there. And I don't agree. I think sis is selling us a dream, and I'm happy for her because I want my Black sisters to win in love. But I don't think that's truly the reason as to how she met that person. I think she met that person because she let go of the preferences that she had. She put herself in a different environment, and then she met somebody who was into her. That's what it was.
Wow, drop the mic. And I think, yes, the fact that you were actually raised by, a white man, you've seen an interracial relationship and the ups and the downs on it, and just the way people glamorize it. That's quite interesting. Rose, what's your thoughts? I think hopefully you've seen the video backstage. But what's your thoughts? Do Black women get more love from non-Black men?
I think it's difficult to say, because when we talk about getting more love, it's like, what are we referring to? Like, are we saying that more non-Black men lust after Black women? Is it that they love Black women in the sense of, they appreciate us with everything that we come with our culture, our Blackness? Is it that they love Black women, just in this sort of like fantasy way where they have this idea of what a Black woman is and they want to explore it? So I think it's difficult to say if they get more love from non-Black men. I think obviously we know that people are fetishized, right? We know that that is a thing. It happens on both sides of the coin. Black men tend to get fetishized, by non-Black women, and the same with Black women. And I actually have heard a lot of Black women outside of this footage say, when they've gone to certain countries in Europe, like Italy and other places, they get so much attention from non-Black men. But then I think the question is, where does that end? Because I don't really see them marrying these Black women. Like, you might be getting attention from them, they might be showing you love because you're new, right? It's like, when something other than ourselves, we often can become quite obsessed with it because it's something new, it's something that is so different. And I think that often does happen. We see images, like, for example, in the modeling industry, right? They often, when they do have Black women, it's these like really tall, dark Black women, and but then if you see the way that they're treated behind the scenes, they talk about how they're treated when it comes to like their hair, their makeup. Sometimes they have to do their own hair, they have to do their own makeup. They don't even go out of their way to buy makeup in their color. Like, they actually, so when we talk about love, is like, I feel like it's a very surface level thing. Like, they love, Black women because they talk about our curves and, but we're a spectrum. We're not all the same at the end of the day. So yeah, I just feel like it's just very surface level. I know that there are times, obviously, where there are non-Black men that do fall in love with a Black woman, but I think those are the ones that, genuinely speaking, are just falling in love with the person. It's not necessarily because they're Black. They just happen to really like her, and she's a Black woman, and they don't really care, if they've got to integrate into your family. You see them sometimes wearing the cultural attire at the wedding. They love the family, they love the culture. So yeah, I don't think they get more love.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Obviously, I haven't watched the whole video, so maybe it's a context. Obviously, we can see that they've edited different parts of the whole video to get people interested, and that's obviously going to get a lot of Black women and a lot of Black men, watching that video. So I'm aware of that context. We already know the statistics. We know that we are the lowest, swiped on, these dating apps. We know the reality of the statistics. So it's kind of like, maybe that's her personal experience and it's unique. I don't know if it's something that Black women get more love. I think we definitely get, and she said to take it aside. She did say take it aside, but I don't think you can take it aside, because I've traveled a lot in Europe, and when I realized that they're liking me, first because I'm a woman, because I'm a woman, and then there is a fetish, and they've said it, like, there's boldness in Europe. Like, guys have said it to you, I've never been with a Black woman. You're dark. And I find it funny, but I'm not happy, I don't find it attractive. I'm not like, what's the word? I don't find it complimentary. I'm not sitting there going, oh my God. I'm sitting there thinking like, is that how you speak to me? I've had guys when I went to Egypt just looking at my breast. My breast ain't even that big, but just staring at it. Silicone? I'll never forget when they go like, silicone? I was like, bruv, how's my breast silicone? It's not even that big. So for me personally, my experience that they assume that we're prostitutes because unfortunately a lot of African women are sex trafficked into Europe as prostitutes and made to work as sex workers. So this whole non-black men give love. I don't know I don't know where that's from. I don't understand it. You know, maybe she had, a very unique experience. Now, the last thing I would say is that I do think it's sad. She's so beautiful. And just the fact that she didn't get love, that saddens me because to me, she was gorgeous. I think she's a very gorgeous black girl. I'm not just saying that. I just genuinely thought, oh, she's really, really pretty. So it's even surprising. And obviously, maybe she glowed up. You know, a lot of us did glow up, you know, when we were from when we were younger. But it to me shows again, you know, America is a different kettle of fish, a different pond. But when black women do say that they can get no love from their own black people, and likewise men say it too, it shows you how striking it is. Because you're sitting there thinking, like, at your big age now, you're telling me no black guy moves to you. Like, you girl, like, are they blind? What are they looking at? Or maybe the black guys that are moving to you don't like. Who knows? So yeah, I disagree as well. I don't think it's true. I think it can be true in certain pockets, environments. You know, you can go to Italy and you find this amazing Italian man that does wine and dine you. But the question is he marrying you? Is he taking you back to the family? You know, is it like a fantasy? Is it a romance like Greek, you know, Greece, you know, the musical? Like, is it summer loving happens so fast? Like, it ain't lasting because the family is not going to accept it. So no, I totally agree. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's any more to take from that because the next conversation is the one that we're going to really get into. Welcome those that have joined. Like, comment. Let me see if there's any comments. If there's any comments, let us know your thoughts about black women getting more love. Okay, let me ask this question just before we move on. What is your thoughts on, I guess, the opposite? They didn't talk about passport girls. I think they used the term just to obviously get that clickbaity type of thing. But do you feel like there is en masse black women leaving the country looking for either non-black men outside of the UK and America or black men from other countries, so like African men, Caribbean men? Do you think en masse there is a move towards that from black women? Anyone can go.
I think a lot of people are just looking for love. Like, let's be practical. Whether there's a mass, I think social media does start a movement or a trend. I mean, I am not well informed with passport bros and this type of, you know, you keep me clued up of what's going on. But from what I see and how much phenomena it's causing, I do think that people do follow trends, and I do think that maybe we're in a time where there's an awakening, especially particularly for black women, where they're feeling like, okay, actually they don't have to wait on black men. Because I think a lot of us, which is we waited for black men, or like we all want to be married to, or I hope, to people who look like us. But I think primarily black women, we waited for a long time, and I think now a lot of them are just feeling like, okay, actually I have options. Doesn't have to, my relationship doesn't have to, or my love doesn't have to just come from a black man. It could be from a person from a different race. And I think there's a few influencers who've shown that as well. And I think a lot of people are wakening up to that idea. Is it a bad thing? I don't think it is. I just don't want people to be sold a false narrative. Even in that relationship, you still have to work. It has to, like you said, you have to have considered all the other things that come with it. You know, interracial relationships are tough, just our intercultural relationships. So you have to think about, again, will the family accept you? You know, holidays, where are people going? I mean, when it's about black issues, what is his perspective? What are his views? What are your views? You know, all those things that make you, but also should be part of the conversation should be had. The one thing I find that is interesting when people who talk about interracial relationship is they don't talk about the race stuff, right? They avoid it in the relationships. And I'm like, but how are you really with this person for good? Like, so it's, yeah, I mean, I think if you're that far inclined and you enjoy that and you want that, go for it. But just be mindful of what you're asking for, and be prepared to work through those uncomfortable things. Will it be successful? Nobody knows. Could be, could not be, and that's okay. No pressure. I think we're putting so much pressure on this idea that if I now date a white man, then we will all succeed. It will be amazing. We'll be happy. We'll have mixed race kids, and everything will be perfect. That's not true. That's also another human being who has their own problems, their own issues, coming from a different background. And also, I think sometimes when we say another race, we assume that those people are wealthy or better. And that's also a false narrative. Like, you could date a white guy who doesn't have money. And I think we maybe just need to open ourselves a bit more to that idea. And if you are dating, date because you like the person, not because you're trying to prove a black guy that you like a white man, or that you're trying to prove people that you found love. Because again, that's not the reason to date or go for an interracial relationship. Let me not answer my own. Anyways, yeah, that's my response.
Go on, Rose.
I don't know if you got my message. My Wi-Fi keeps freezing, so I really do hope that you guys hear me and it doesn't cut off, because it keeps cutting off for me and reloading.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so what was the question you were talking about, like on the flip side with passport bros?
Yeah, no, yeah. What is even the question I asked? I think I just said something about, like, do you think that, did I ask that about black women going out to seek
You
no,
said,
yeah,
does it happen
I said,
on the other side?
yeah, I said, do you think it's happening en masse that, you know, UK black girls and UK American black girls are seeking non-American, non-UK black men, and black men in general? So meaning that people are seeking African men rather than like British guys or African American men, and just non-black men at all. So like white, European, whatever, Arabic,
Yeah.
Asian.
I don't think it's happening en masse. I think what's happened, in my opinion, right? Social media has made everything seem like it's happening like everywhere, and everyone is going through this thing, and you know, and I don't feel like that's the case at all. It's very like social media has like it's given us this lens, right, where we can see into the lives of people that we probably would never talk about, hear about, or see. And so now that we are seeing more of these women coming online talking about black men, black men hate black women. And I think it's like, you know, we were talking about yesterday, Esther, but Ngozi, sorry, when there's like an echo chamber, when you're within a certain circle, or, you know, you're like, for example, on Twitter, depending on the people that you follow, depending on what they retweet, that's what you see, right? But in the real world, it might not be happening that same way or happening to that extent. So I think that's ultimately what's happening, because it's very easy to go on YouTube, for example, and type in interracial relationships, and you see like a whole list of, you know, in YouTubers in interracial relationships. But if you actually search black love and black relationships, I find you would actually find more black people in relationships with other black people than you would find interracial relationships. I don't think there's actually more people in interracial relationships. What I do know
in America, yeah, go on.
No, what I was gonna say, I think what tends to happen is these relationships, because it's a topic, right? I think it's more likely for interracial couples to jump on social media together, as you might find black couples, because a lot of black men don't actually want to be on social media. That's why when you find on YouTube, there's this conversation that always happens of, you know, why don't more black men become influencers? Why don't more black men do these videos and do this videos? Because there's a market for it. But I don't feel like black men really want to, you know, of course there are black males out there who put themselves out there, but I think when it comes to relationships, sometimes women have to force their husbands to be on, you know, even when you look at shows like Love and Hip Hop, and you don't always see the partner in the scenes. They don't want to be involved in it. So I think, I don't feel like it's happening en masse, but what I do feel like, because there's this huge conversation around Black men hating Black women, it's being more amplified. And the more something is amplified, naturally, the more you're going to see it. On the flip side, with passport bros, it's so interesting because I'd never heard about this passport bros thing until I saw these videos about these American men, right? What happens is, you have these Black American men who go to places like Thailand, and they find Thai women, and it's so weird because there was one video I saw in particular. He was finding Thai women who were built like Black women. He was finding Thai women who had like these curves and these big bums, and whether it's surgery or it's natural, that's what they were looking for. So what I do find that is so hilarious is when a lot of these Black guys do go out of Black women, they try to find white women that have features of Black women. So I think on both sides, what tends to happen is people end up settling, because I don't like, obviously there's different reasons, like with Black women, I feel like, and this might sound bad mind, but I feel like it is settling, because if your reason is, I'm gonna go over here because Black men don't want me, and suddenly you have a preference for white men that you've never had before, but you've now decided to open yourself up to being attracted to white men, I feel like that's desperation. I'm so sorry. That's what I see it as. And then on the flip side as well, I feel like it is desperation. And it's also because it's an ego boost. If you know that these women fetishize you, right, as a Black man, you know that there's this whole stereotype of the BBC and all of this stuff, and you're not getting love from your own women. You know that when you go over there, these women are going to be drooling over you, whether it's because they think you have money and they're trying to come to America or come to the UK, or it's because but that's more times what it is. We see it happen. Like, the question is, like I said before, we don't know if they actually love you or is lust, but what we do find when these Black men go, they know that they're being lusted over. They know it. So it's like this ego boost. They're going somewhere where they know that they're getting that love regardless of what type of love it is. But I'll leave it there. I feel like I've been talking too much.
No, you're making a good point. Can I just ask? So with the passport bros, if I understand, the reason they go abroad is because they feel like Black women they said they're masculine, they just want money, isn't it? But then you spend money on the Thai girl to bring her over.
No,
So I don't understand. Where does that? It's not adding up.
So some of them don't bring them over because they genuinely know that the Thai girls are more likely with them for papers, because it defeats the purpose, because they kind of know. What they say is that if they bring the Thai girl over or the Brazilian girl over or the Philly girl over, what's going to happen is that she's going to be influenced by the Americans, and then next minute, after 5-6 years, she's got her green paper. She's now.
So they go there to do what? To get married because why? Sorry? They're getting there because they're proving a point to Black women that they can meet a Thai woman.
They say that is because they're easy, they're more approachable, there's less
more
stress, less hassle.
subservient.
They're more subservient / submissive. Their money goes longer, so obviously they feel like they won't say this, but they say it without saying this because they get excited at the fact that their £5,000 can last a whole year in Brazil and Thailand, and you feel you got money. When we know that, because we travel, it's just like, bruv, that 400 quid has lasted in 2 weeks, but we know how much 400 quid lasts in the UK. So they're what do you call it? They go.
So are they marrying for love, or are they marrying because they want somebody to do work for them? I don't understand.
They would say they're loving. They say that they're marrying for love, but their love has conditions.
They could, you know what? There could be some men who actually go out there and then they do fall in love, but I think the intent might not always be to fall in love, right? the same way that on the flip side with black women who suddenly decide that, okay, I'm going to give white men a try, is to test it out. And then you might actually genuinely meet someone that you do like, right? You start to like them and you build a relationship with them, and, you know, but with the passport bros, I think what's so sinister about it, like with the videos that I've seen, is the way that they treat these women. Like they treat them like food, right? So their whole purpose is to show black women, look, we can go over here and we can get better than you. Look at how
That's what I'm saying. Then who's controlling the narrative? The black woman is still running the show. And that's the weird part, is if you're doing things to prove to me, then you really care about me. And for me, that just defeats the whole purpose. And if any man for me has to go to that extent, it's not a man for me. And why would they be loudly talking about it? Why are they so proud about it? Like, it's so embarrassing. And if it is that you did one woman was submissive, why is your first option not Africa? Why is it Thailand?
Oh, they know some of them are, but I think some of them are going to Africa, because an African woman, I did a thingamajig, did say, like, we are aware, we are going to use you as well. What she was basically saying, and what's been happening, is that a lot of these women from third world countries are saying, look, please understand that this is a two-way thing. You can come, we'll make you feel good, we will boost your ego, but we ain't stupid. We understand your English. We watch the podcast where you black men talk about you African-American women and compare us. Yeah, maybe some girls really like it, but really and truly, no, we will use you for what you're using us to. I don't think they're going in mass to Africa, though. Realistically, they go in because they don't want black women, so they're not going to go to Africa.
Yeah,
they want the exotic type woman.
So the problem is not black women. This problem is self-hate. Then they don't like themselves.
Oh yeah,
so they
definitely self-hating.
You know what? I'm trying to find something, right? I'll share with you guys after if I find it. There was actually a video that this guy did where it was like tips for black men who want to go, you know, across the pond.
Let them go. I think that's great because it separates the good men from the bad men. Let the people do what they need to do. I think it's amazing that we're seeing such men showcase their true their characters, because white men do the same. White men date outside as well. Like they date Asian,
a lot
as in Chinese, but they don't come on podcasts talking about or trashing white women. I think there's a problem with black men. There's just this, I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's especially black American men. I don't understand what's going on. I think the problem, I don't know what's going on there. Don't know what water they're drinking, or that what is that drive-through shops that they go and eat from. Something is in that food. they all need help.
Honestly. Yeah, Anthony Holman is the
sorry to cut yourself.
No, I was saying that Anthony Holman is meant to be, he's not really, but they've put him as the leader. I think you're talking about him. Anthony Holman is the one that talks about, you know, advising black men what to do. And
he was saying the countries not to go to, like, don't go to Ghana, don't go to...
Maybe a different person, but Anthony Holman has been seen as the leader of the passport bros, and he's the one that was kicked out of Brazil and went to Thailand. And oh my God, this was crazy. The behavior they accept from the woman. The girl was pushing his head. She was doing this to the guy, and he was going, it shows you the low self-esteem of these men is so shocking and disgusting, because it really is. Like, you are getting hit by the head by these Thai girls, and you're telling us that the American girls are the ones that are aggressive, but you got
this people accept in interracial relationships, you'll be shocked. That's the one thing I find interesting is, and I don't know if you also saw the interracial couples, like how they would laugh about, oh, my partner doesn't cook, right? That they would just pop maybe pizza or bend the rice or whatever else. Those are things that if you are a black couple, you'll be shamed for as a black woman for not being able to do. But what a black man would accept in a white relationship, oh, he's very much okay to do. He's just very much okay to go to Starbucks for dinner, darling. He's okay with that. Yeah. But if you're together as a black woman, you need to cook. You need to be able to, do the whole 3-course meal. What people accept in interracial relationships, and that's why I said what that lady said was key about she dropped her preferences. A lot of people do that when they go to the other side. Like, they simplify their life so much more. I live, like a village, and when I do see interracial couple, it's the same. The man now, is doing everything. Literally, I see black men when they were Caucasian, they do everything. Pick up this, cook, at the forefront, pick the child up here, wipe the kid. When they're with a Black woman, it's a very different man altogether. So I do think that people change with who they choose to be with and accept certain things. And also parents, have you seen family members are also accepting if your brother brings a Caucasian girl, she doesn't know any better, just leave it. If now your brother brings a Black girl from another country, it's embarrassing. Oh, why couldn't she do that? Like, we're tough on ourselves and we're very much more lenient when people are foreign. And yeah, there's just more acceptance. I think it's much easier. I think there's a narrative of white is right. So when men do date white women, they seem like there's like a rite of passage, or that they've dated up. That's always the assumption, even within families, is in-laws. Like, we just assume that that person is now doing better, which is usually quite false. But yeah, that's, people accept a lot of weird stuff.
Okay.
And just lastly, the last point in that is that it's interesting that in terms of like the divorce rates, that the highest divorce rates are Black men with white women. The lowest divorce rates are actually Black women with white men. So a lot of these interracial couples don't talk about the breakup. They don't talk about the fact that so many mixed race children are in the foster care. Like, oh my God, that the amount of mixed race children. I'll never forget a conversation I had with her. Oh, where was she from? Was she Black or white? I can't remember. Was she? I had a conversation with a Black grandmother over her mixed race child, and obviously her son was Black and he was with a white mother, and I think I was sectioning the boy, and I don't know how we got into the conversation, but she really just broke a lot of things down and kind of broke down, saying, look, all of these people that talk about interracial relationship, they're lying, saying that not all couples, but she was saying, do you know how difficult it has been? She's saying that she feels that her child is unwell, and I wouldn't say she can blame the white side, but she was saying that the way that they are, the way that they act, just so many different things she wasn't happy with, and the level of inter-family fights, to the point where the child is just confused, the husband don't talk to the wife takes away the kids, all of these different things. And we know what happens in Black households and also in white households, but these are the things that I find very interesting when I hear men, especially even some Black women that are divestors, they don't talk about the difficulties. Why are we seeing high rates of divorce across the board, but a lot of times with Black men and white women? What's going on there? What's happening? You're getting together at a high rate, especially in the UK, it's 50-50, but you're divorcing very quickly. I feel like there needs to be a wider conversation of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why you, like you said, Penelope, don't give me a false narrative. Give me say, look, this might be this might be that, but that. Lastly, I would say is this. I was talking to a Cameroonian Spanish man. He said that obviously living in Spain, he had a lot of self-hate, was very colorist. He wanted to be white himself. He only dated white women. His wife is currently white, but the woman that he thought he would marry just before her was Black. And he even said that if he did it again, if he could have another go, he would marry a Black. And I said, wow, why? He said, if I'm really honest, he loves his wife. They're both believers. He met her in church, but he would have kids right now. He said she don't want kids right now. Like, she wants to do her career, so there's a lot of things that I'm sacrificing. And I just thought it was powerful because, again, that's a conversation that needs to be heard. The whole idea that Black women are not submissive, it really confuses me, because feminism was technically created by white women. I know that they try to make Black women the face of feminism. Feminism is still, to me, white women are the face of feminism.
The writing, everything, Esther.
Like, it's all like, and I read Black feminism, and it's a minority. So the majority of feminism is white. Don't get it confused on social media.
The suffragettes
is still pushed by white women. White women,
especially wealthy white women, is a class thing as well.
Because they got tired of being housewives.
So the whole idea, anyway, I just find the interracial conversation very skewed to just, like you said, it's better, rather than saying, you know what, there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. Your social capital will change. If you marry a middle-class white person, male or female, your social capital is going to change. That is definitely. But there's pros and cons, because we already know that integrating and the biculturalism of being Black in certain environments is uncomfortable. So unless, to me, you were brought up in Surrey and Kent, some of these Black guys that are with white girls were brought up in South London, Peckham, bruv, eating Morley's. And then you're now telling me you're eating Yorkshire pudding and pies and you're happy. It's okay. It's all good. Anyway.
It's interesting.
You know what? just to briefly touch lastly on what you said, I think that is so key. The conversation that is never had. I know when we talk about mixed race children and mixed race people, we often talk about them being confused, right? But I think the other side of it that they don't talk about, that I've seen quite often on social media, are the mixed race children who end up being raised by their white family who are racist, right? There's so many mixed race children. So like, let's say, for example, you've got an interracial couple. Man is black, woman is white. And for whatever reason, the family separates and the man moves away and the child is spending more time with the family. And this is a family that do not like black people. Naturally, they're going to see your child as black. That child is going to be treated as black. The horror stories I've heard from mixed race people who have been called the N-word by their own mothers when they've gotten angry, because what you're having is these black men are marrying, and obviously not all, some of these black men who are marrying white women, knowing that these women just see you as a fetish, and then you have a child with them, and then you've got these social media accounts where people fetishize mixed race kids having mixed babies. Like there's actual pages on Instagram, on Twitter, where people talk about how much they want a mixed baby, and then when you do get that mixed baby that doesn't actually look mixed, that looks more black than mixed, who doesn't have that hair that you imagine them having, who actually ends up having 4C hair or is a bit darker, what treatment then does that child get? And I think this is where people don't think, and you're not thinking about the potential consequences of you getting into a situation just because you want to get your ego pumped and you feel like black women are this and white women are that. Just lastly, quick, I saw a post by this black man on Twitter, and he spoke. He's quite popular. He went to his wife's family's house for Thanksgiving, and her grandmother was so racist that they didn't allow him in the house. And he spent the whole of Thanksgiving in the car. How many black men in those situations, because I'm sure he's not the only one, will go to their black woman's house and then the mum is rude, or or whoever is rude.
They're going into that house and sitting down, my friend.
So yeah, it was interesting to see that they're willing to lower their standards and to really, really be mistreated just in the name of not having a black woman.
Let me add on that point of mixed race kids being raised by the white racist side. I have a prime example. So my friend Heather, the one that I love, her parents are fostering 2 mixed race kids who were in the foster care, but they've decided to keep them on or continue fostering them till they're 18 because the parents broke up. The mom wasn't well mentally, and the dad also, is not the best caretaker. And those situations happen quite often. Mm-hmm. But the grandmother is well and capable to look after the kids, but she wouldn't. She doesn't want to take those, as she classes them, black kids. So much so that she lives in the same town as them. When she sees them, she walks past the kids because they're black. But take into account that these mixed race kids are being raised by a white family now who are Christian. So just that confusion for a child, like you have a grandmother who's white, doesn't even acknowledges you when they see you in town, doesn't even want to look at you because she considers you to be black. You're being raised by a white family who's not your parents. It's very bad, and like you said, the care system is filled with so many mixed race kids, and we don't even take that into account because people are irresponsible when they get into these relationships. Like you said, it's either based on lust or this notion that this is a black guy who's going to just give me what I need. Then they end up pregnant and not think about the consequences and the aftermath. Like those are children, those are people, but then I don't know, it's a vicious cycle, and I do feel bad. I agree. Like I also had a friend who was like, you don't know what it's like to not know where you belong. And I think Akala also alludes to this when he wrote his book, and he's obviously a very Pan-Africanist, pro-black, but his mother is white, and he said he was always in confusion, coming home to a white mother, but having this strong desire for his heritage and his Black side. It was conflicting, so much so that they had to get to a point where they just had to sit down, and he had to really express to her that all the things that I'm dealing with, it's not personal, it's not about you. And this is why I want to highlight that it's not about race. Like, you kind of have to look past it. It is, but not also not. If you start dating people because they're white or Black, you're actually playing yourself, because it's a challenge. There are going to be uncomfortable questions. The person might even say something racist that for them might not come across. Or I give you an example, my mom, like, we live in the countryside. We would go to a restaurant, like my stepdad was very romantic. That was just who he was. We would come to a restaurant, and then they would assume my mom is a cleaner. In that moment, you all have to acknowledge that that was a racist encounter. If now you're with somebody where you're just all avoiding, or you don't want to actually discuss the reality of it, or that person assumes that racism doesn't exist, how are you going to be how are you going to feel seen or valued or validated in those moments? And a lot of couples just don't avoid those type of things. But even if you do, it doesn't mean the racism stops. And I think some people are under this assumption that if I date a interracial person, I will never have to deal with any racism again. Actually, sometimes it's more heightened, because now you're around the family. People ask you certain questions that are uncomfortable. Now, like even Melody Hobson, she has a daughter, and people would say, "Oh, is that your child?" And they assume you're a babysitter. Things like that, where you're like, my goodness, race is everywhere. So yeah, I just don't want people to have a false image or walk into these relationships ignorant. Does that make sense?
No, good conversation, ladies. Thank you. So we know that last week there was a lot of viral stuff going on. So I'm going to play this video, and we're going to talk about this. So
you are bound to the systems of the world. You have bound any of you who are going to Beyonce's concert. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. How dare you call yourself a Christian? I don't care what pastor you got that is okay with it. I don't care what pastor you got that think it's cool. I don't care what pastor you got that's singing along to their song because they want some clout. Why you think that man called himself Jehovah? It was short for Jehovah. When a witch has a coven, it's normally a small thing. Witches' covens are normally 3 to 7 people. When it becomes thousands, it's called a hive. Y'all are part of that lady beehive? And you call yourself a Christian? May the dealings of the Lord come upon you. You think this is small stuff. You think you not going to that lady's concert is not an initiation. You think you not going to that concert is not a ritual. You think you not going to concert is not a gate. That entire concert is a gate. How dare you call yourself a Christian?
So, ladies, I was laughing only because the music is so dramatic. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
It makes everybody uncomfortable. We're all just twitching in our chairs. I feel like she's just talking to someone. Feels really personal to me.
The music is just like making me go like, when you hear music, or even sad music, and someone's talking like this, it does make you feel them. They can be saying rubbish, but you start to feel moves like actually speaking.
Like, yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So, ladies, should Christians attend? With that question, also talk about your initial thoughts when you've seen this. But should Christians attend Beyonce's concert? And also, what's your thoughts about what she said as well? Who wants to brave it? Go on, Rose. Got your mic open.
I think Penny should go first, because obviously we discussed this yesterday, right? So you already know. I'm interested to hear what Penny has to say. Go on, girl.
Nope. This one it's a difficult one. Hey, but whatever she said, she's not lying. That's all I have to say. Whatever she's saying, she's not lying. Spirits are real. Witchcraft is real. I love Beyonce. I grew up on Beyonce. If anybody knows me, I love Beyonce. Like recently, I had to take a picture of her. I went to see Mrs. Carter, the Miss Carter tour before the Mr. and Mrs. Carter tour. That was what, 2015 or 16. And I will say, Lord have mercy, she's like a small God. That was me. And this is, as soon as I left that show, I felt like, oh my gosh, there's something about that space being there. It was just a different aura. Maybe because of her presence or because of who she is, I don't know. But there was a different atmosphere. I remember I was crying, I was bawling, and I was just new in the faith. I think I was just coming into Christ then. But after that experience, I was like, this woman she just takes over, you know. And then as time goes on, as you mature in Christ, people don't just take over. Spirits take over. And the Lord starts to convict you slowly. It's not just her, it's other things, it's music, you know, and you start to open up. And so this is coming from a person who loves Beyonce, grew up on Beyonce. I still respect and value who she is and her talent. So I'm not tarnishing her, but I do think that if you are going to go into the spaces as a Christian, just know what you're walking into. And for me, where I think I had to draw the line with the music, Beyonce's music, the recent music, is it Lemonade? Where she was talking about having to tear down the Bible and fast to try and find out whether he was cheating or something along the lines. And then she started and then the video as well, where she was like, just by the waters with loads of women, like taking on this African spirituality. And I don't know if it's African or Brazilian, what is that? Sangria, whatever that religion is taking on. The girl in the dark. I watched that video. I said, "No, Jesus!" For me at the time, I felt like the Lord was telling me. And then when I saw the Lemonade video, because I was so excited to come and see and watch what was going on, because it was like a whole thing where she was dropping the music and the visuals at the same time. Oh, after 2 videos, I'm not gonna lie, for me, my spirit said no, it was too much. I saw her. For me at the time, that's what revealed to me that I needed to stop. So I haven't really listened to Beyonce since that album, personally. But you guys know I'm as extreme. I stop certain things when I do. It's not working for me. So that's been that. I mean, there are some songs like recently Cafe that I would maybe play around with, but I agree with that woman. I agree with that pastor woman. I think she's probably much more bolder than I am to say it how she said it. She's a witch. Maybe she's meddling with them. I don't know if she's a witch, but I think she's meddling in weird spaces. That's all I have to say.
Before Rose, you answer, what about her tone? Because one of the things that people were really criticizing was like, oh, here we go, judgmental Christians again condemning.
But yeah, the other day, how much more could you say it? I feel like people, this is that hard message that makes you decide where you stand. And that's the reality. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable and call it judgment, but where do you stand? You know, it's the righteous road or this road? And you have to make a decision. I think her tone was perfectly fine. She's a pastor's woman or wife, whatever. She was going right for it. And she said what she said, honey. You take it or you live it. And you know, you can make a decision. She's not telling you not to do it. She's just telling you what you're exposing yourself to. And I don't think it's just Beyonce. I think we've seen it a lot now with the Cardi. I think there are a lot of people who possess this type of energy when they perform, or the type of things that they value as much or praise. We have to be mindful. It is happening. These are the times. So
thank you. What about you, Rose?
Do you know what's so funny? Like, apart from seeing it just now, I'd only seen it once. I think I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched it up until, I think the snippet I saw, it just ended when she said the thing about the hive and not the rest, right? And I wasn't really paying attention when I watched it, but it's interesting watching it again because my initial thoughts have actually changed. I think when I was like, so me and Ngozi spoke about this yesterday, right? And I did find that there was some sort of condemnation in the way that she spoke. But I think I realized the reason I felt like that was the whole thing about I rebuke you. I think that's what I found was a bit too much. Like, of course, you know, when it comes to things of the Lord, we know, for those of us who are very spiritually awake, we know the way that the kingdom of darkness operates. Like, it's not a joke, right? Because we don't see these things physically with our natural eyes, people don't understand how dire of a situation it is and how many people are operating with these spirits and who are, you know, there's a battle going on. We know this. So I think when you are someone who is walking on the side of righteousness and you can clearly see something's wrong, it's like you see that there's fire, and these Christians who are supposed to see the fire as well are walking towards it, happily going towards the fire. There's that natural thing of, hello, can you not see the fire? Like, what are you doing? So I think that was where it was coming from. And then also, I do realize there's a different way of preaching in America, right? Like, they have these theatrics in the way that they talk and the way that they have to perform. And so I think definitely, I don't know what she was talking about prior to that moment, but maybe she was just really riled up. And so naturally, when you're performing on stage, the effects that it gives, because if you know, is what was cracking me up. There's times where she will stop and she'll be like, she'll look at the audience, and you know that she's probably trying to think of what to say, right? But it gives some dramatic effect. It gives some dramatic effects, like, and then people are like, yeah, hallelujah. But no, she's definitely right in what she's saying, and like very much like Penny, I used to be a massive Beyonce fan, huge Beyonce fan, and that was because I was a massive Destiny's Child fan. Like, I don't think there was anyone who was a bigger Destiny's Child fan than myself. Like, from primary school days.
We gotta do a versus here. I'm sorry, I love Destiny's Child, girl. I have the whole album. Okay.
Destiny's Child. Like, I absolutely love them. And
Nancy,
so,
put your clothes on. I told
I
you.
know, right?
Don't play with them. Hey.
So for me, it was like, I always like, so when Beyonce then went solo, naturally it's like, you like Beyonce, right? And she was really killing it, like with her solo singles. She was dropping bop after bop after bop. But then I got exposed to the truth about hip hop very early during secondary school days, right? And they started talking about these type of things, you know, not to the depth of like giving scripture and talking from the reference of, you know, righteousness and unrighteousness. It was just more so about these people are witches, and you know, they do that, their music is witchcraft, and when you listen to it, this is what happens.
We listen to it backwards.
When you listen to it backwards, they're speaking, and I actually used to go listen to the songs backwards. And Beyonce, there was a song of Beyonce where they played it backward, and it sounded like she was saying something demonic, right? And so I started to question the music that I listened to. And then also, I think what then made me stop being a fan of Beyonce was I found her very disingenuous. I like really found her quite fake. And the reason I say that is because I went from watching these interviews of Destiny's Child and, you know, these women who were brought up in these Christian homes, to the point where you have a song called Nasty Girl, where you are basically speaking down on women who are promiscuous and dress provocative, and the way that they carried themselves and the way that they spoke. And they were very open about going to church and their belief in God. And then Beyonce started transitioning into, you know, she was doing, no, at that point still, when she did interviews when she was with Jay-Z, they kept their relationship very private. Even when you would do interviews and they'd ask her questions about Jay-Z, she wouldn't answer. And then all of a sudden, I think it was that album 4 that she did, and she dropped a documentary. I don't know if you guys watched it. She did this documentary, and she was laying in bed, and she said something along the lines of, I'm going to go make love to my husband. And I was like, wait, hold on. Is this the same Beyonce that never talks about her husband? Like, she doesn't talk about her relationship. Now she's telling us that she's going to have sex with her husband. And then she drops that song Partition. and then she drops Drunk in Love. And so for someone who went from seeing this young Christian woman in this girl group and actually really liked the fact that they were, you know, young Christian women and they didn't hide that, to then glorifying sex and talking about it so explicitly in the music, that's where my shift for Beyonce happened. So it wasn't necessarily because of you know, an understanding of like spirituality or anything like that. It was just something very weird about her character. It just didn't seem real. And I think the more that I would watch Beyonce and see how well she's media trained, it was like, you know, sometimes where you see someone and you know that behind that person, there's something really ugly about them. Because on the foot, like on the front is like this really talented person, but there was just something about her that I think it was my spirit didn't really take to her over time. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think there is definitely a bondage when it comes to Beyonce. I said to Esther as well, there's a church of Beyonce. I don't know if you've heard about that, Penny. There's actually like a
They have a church of Kim Kardashian, Kylie, all the.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
I think there's all
church.
those people who are. The one thing I find interesting, my mom always makes a joke. She said the older Beyonce gets, the more naked she becomes. It's honestly funny, isn't it? It's quite true, because the younger she was so conservative and always covered, and now like the older she gets, it's like she's just letting it all out, which is interesting to observe. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I mean, I still have a soft spot for Beyonce. I think she's very talented, and I don't want to take the talent away, because I think you have to be a certain type of person to be who she is. And I want to give her grace that she's probably overcome a lot, and she's got so much judgment. And for me, I feel like there's just a sense of loneliness. I don't know whether you never see Beyonce having a good time or with friends, like, or you see Kelly now going out and being with Lala, like you see her character. You don't see that with Beyonce. So I wonder what it's like to be her on a daily basis. But I do think the witchcraft thing is real, and sometimes I wonder, is it that Jay-Z? Like, maybe I'm trying to blame somebody else because I still have a soft spot for Beyonce. Because I don't know I don't know if I like Jay-Z for Beyonce, to be honest. I don't know if I trust his heart and his intent.
She was very young. She was a teenager, and I think there's a 20-year age gap between them. And
13.
he started. Is it 13?
Yeah.
Yes, so the age gap between them, and if you think about it, Beyonce was still kind of like at the beginning of her solo career, because this was during a time where Aaliyah was still alive, and there was this not rivalry, but people were trying to pit Beyonce against Aaliyah, and so it was from those times that he was, well, you can say he was kind of grooming her, right? Because if she was that young and he was old enough know better, he was grooming her. But what I was going to say, Penny, to what you said about Beyonce not seeing her have fun, I think that also speaks to the small g God thing with Beyonce, because I feel like it's very intentional that Beyonce has kind of put this screen between us and her world, where what we see of her is what she wants us to see. But I do believe that Beyonce actually is very, very much the same as how you see Kelly is around people. I just feel like she doesn't allow us to see into that world, because sometimes you get glimpses of it when she goes to certain functions, or she has a party and celebrities take pictures at her party, and you think about the type of people that Beyonce's around, the connection she has, right? I think that's ultimately, it plays a part into this whole thing with Beyonce, and why I find it quite sinister to a degree, because it's like she's so famous, she's so idolized, but we don't really know much about Beyonce.
Do you think that's what builds the mystery? Like, I think I like her for that part. I feel like that part is what makes her just that much more of a talent, because she wants to be, or how I understand it is, she wants to be out for the talent and not for my day-to-day life. Because I think there are some artists who say, normally we're boring people, and we don't want you to start to get to know that, because like for a person like Rihanna, she can play on that because her personality is really what sells her rather than really her song, whatever. Whereas for Beyonce, I find that maybe her skill set is her talent, so she wants to let that be the point of conversation, which I think she's honed that really well. What I worry, even with her parents, I think it's just there's not a level. I think there's, I don't know, what I sense is just a deep loneliness. But interestingly enough, I've been watching her mom. She was set with Michelle Obama. Her mom is now a very much Christian woman, and I'm always intrigued by mothers who are like quoting the Lord and talking about Jesus, and constantly like putting Bible verses up, and then their daughters, or maybe their child who's a prodigal, like what is a child who's like a talent, child prodigy, and then people are claiming that they're this demonic person. But I guess she's old enough to make her own decisions in what she chooses in spirituality. I suppose the mother can't make a decision on that. But even the mother, like posters here and there of Beyonce, but more than now talks with Kelly, like things like that. I'm just like, it must be a hard life that she lives, but maybe that's where she finds the solace in the darkness. I don't know. Who knows?
So,
what are your thoughts, Ngozi?
Should Christians go to Beyonce? I feel like should Christians go? I think Christians can go anywhere. I think if it's beneficial. Should Christians go? Well, I guess can Christians go? Yes. Should they go? I think they got to make that decision. In all honesty, I think that I was never a Beyonce fan. I loved Destiny's Child. I was a Destiny's Child's fan, but my favorite was always Kelly because I felt she was the underdog, and I saw myself as an underdog. So I always looked for the underdog in anything. So I never. For me, Beyonce is just very unrelatable. She was always she was, as a character, I never related with her, but I liked her. I did not ever disavow the fact that she probably is the most talented in the group. It was quite obvious, it was quite evident. But also she had light skin privilege. Before I had the understanding of colorism, I already saw that effect. I just didn't like it. So I never cared for Beyonce much. And I said it yesterday. My parasocial relationship with celebrities ended at age 13, way before I got saved. But I had a very big obsession with like number of, oh my god, like I had a Michael Jackson obsession to the point where I used to dream about, anyways, that's a different conversation, but I used to have spiritual dreams about Michael. MJ, that's just so weird. MJ was my husband. I used to imagine marrying Michael Jackson, so that was the one person I obsessed about. Also like Little Fizz and JB. That's the only reason why I was watching Love and Hip Hop LA. I never watched any of the Love and Hip Hop brands, but when I heard that Little Fizz and Marion was gonna be on Love
They're
and Hip
all
Hop,
questionable at this point, but there you
say
go.
that again. So for me, I don't have that relationship with Beyonce, so I don't get it. So when people talk about it, maybe I have to think about Michael, but I feel like MJ makes sense, isn't it? MJ's MJ. But I don't have that relationship with Beyonce. So for me, when I then got saved, it was just easy. It was all music. It was just like all secular music, witchcraft. It wasn't. I don't have this kind of weird. Yeah, that one's bad. That one's bad. Yeah, but her. However, I respect her talent, her work ethic. I respect the hours that she puts in. But I guess she scares me. The fact that you can't criticize, like Beyonce is like the one person you cannot criticize. That scares me. If you criticize her, your career is done for. Kerry Hilson got that. There was a dancer that criticized her. She can't get no more work. I find that quite alarming. That you cannot criticize her. I think it comes from her. She's silent because she's silent. But I think it comes from her.
This is what I was trying to say, because there's that screen. We don't actually know the real Beyonce. It's only what we see. So she could really be this big biatch that's blackballing people behind the scenes.
Or she's got such a presence that, because MJ was different. You people did criticize. We called him. We loved him, but we're like, he bleached. We know what all he went through with all the court cases. So even though MJ, most people will still say MJ is above. No one can top MJ. He was able to be criticized. So I just find it a very weird phenomenon that you can't come at Beyonce. That is not normal behavior. So I think when I watched this video, personally speaking, it was like, wow, are people that late? Like, well, maybe it's African and Caribbean thing because, like, we all know this. Like, what shouldn't everybody know this? The wages of our warfare are not carnal. We're not battling flesh and blood. It's spirits. I think Jackie Hill said something really good. Witchcraft is sanitized in the Western world, right? It's not like the juju man that's there, has the clinky, the chicken over there, the kabash over here. Yeah, we understand what it looks like in Africa because you would know the babalawo when you see them, right? Juju in Africa, not just the spiritual stuff, just the way a person looks. They obviously got the respectable paganisms and stuff like that. The reality is, we know majority of our presidents, because they last too long, they are all covered by some sort of juju. So it's evident. I do think that in the Western world, it's glamorized, it's beautiful. And even in the Black culture, African spiritualism, Orisha. Do you know what Orisha is? That's a demon, bruv. Mama water spirit. That's the whole Santorini water. Mama water spirit. Even then somebody, was it you, Rose, that talked about Little Mermaid? Or like Halle Bailey was talking about Little Mermaid and was basing it on Mama Wata. Can you imagine?
Yeah, marine spirits, you know. Can you imagine?
Marine spirit. So I think that the Western world is not awake to a lot of things. And I think Beyonce's got a stronghold. I think that Beyonce, the conversation should move beyond Beyonce, because not just Beyonce, it's Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye. It's every single celebrity that puts themselves before the Lord. Before even Beyonce, Nas said he was a little god. They all were part with the 5%er. They're all some of them are part of the 5%. So for me, maybe because I've been watching Truth Behind Hip Hop since I was 16, and they exposed, even before that, Eminem. I remember back in the day, it was like Eminem. I even remember, we talked about it before, Harry Potter. Don't watch Harry Potter, it was demonic. So for me, going to Black African Pentecostal churches, yeah, bro, you can't watch Harry Potter, it's demonic. I will still watch Sabrina though. Sabrina Teenage Witch Charmed was demonic. Eminem was demonic, because Eminem was a bit extreme though. So every artist was demonic. So, but there's something about Beyonce that's like, are we new to this? So I would say that I think that the conversation is an important one. I think it's an awakening one. I said yesterday that I think her tone was right for the people that she needed to trigger. If it wasn't for you, it wasn't for you. Me, I didn't care. It wasn't for me. Because she delivered it better, potentially. It was her own environment. She didn't know it was going to go viral. She capitalized off it. But when you're chatting to people, it was her own event. She does these events. You're chatting to your people that have come to support you. You're going to chat to them a certain way. So I'm also aware of that context. The way I'm going to chat to you guys will be very different. Okay, I am on the platform, but will be very different if I'm going out on the stage. I'm not going to talk a certain way. I'm going to consider the words that I'm going to say, to the impact and the imprint I'm going to make. So I think, going back to the question and rounding up now, I think that believers need to wake up. And I think if you are having to argue and kind of tassel between a person, a thing, an entity, a genre, a music, compared to your love of God, you've got to ask yourself, idols are no longer carved images and things coming out of gold and wood. Idols have become technological. They've evolved now into human beings. They've evolved, to human beings and other things. So I think the reality of the first commandment says, do not worship anybody else. And music is worship. Going to a concert, there is a level of worship that you're going there. Why are you paying 2K? If you can afford it, fair enough. But you're paying £2,000. That's a whole rent. And some people that are paying that are working class. Middle class and upper class, I get you paying 2K. You're working class and you're paying 2K. Unless you were saving that money and you didn't know that she was going to do it until a week before she dropped it, that's where you start to realize the bondage. So I think anyone listen to this, me personally, do what you want to do, right? But be wise, understand the consequences. I do think that there was a bit of extraness, the Hive, bruv. Where do you get this information from? The Beehive, like, bruv, she didn't name her fans, they named themselves, like Beehive. I thought that it was a bit extra. That's why I thought it was funny, like the Beehive, a coven is 5 to 6 women, but a hive is 1,000. When she said that, you are going into a portal. I just thought, I love the dramatic. Imagine going in and you actually go into a portal. But so there's so much to be said. I think it's a nuanced conversation. I really think that speak. If you go to a local body, speak to your elders. Hopefully your elders will give you good wisdom. Listen to us, but we are not your spiritual guidance. go to your elders. So what else I would say to the body of believers is listen to YouTubers, but don't be basing things on that. The word of God is the principal thing. Read the word, understand the content, learn how to understand the scriptures. The scriptures are quite clear. To be really, really honest with you, is a straightforward. Should we really be going to concerts of people who who say to you that they are gods, who tell you, I go to altars? So it's kind of like, what is the argument there? But also lack of maturity, a lack of ignorance, and people not reading the Bibles. So
yeah, no, that well done. Like, you basically nailed everything right there. And, you know, like you said, go to God, go to your elders, go straight to God, go to the word. As you were talking about idols no longer being like carved images and wood and gold, I was thinking about certain scriptures where the apostles, they healed someone, and then these people suddenly started worshiping them, and they were so upset by it. They were like, you know, get up, like, we are not God, like, don't worship us. And then you think about when Apostle Paul got bit by the snake, and then they thought that he was a god. You know, we see how they rebuked people in those situations. And we understand that when it comes to idolizing people, it's very, very easy for that to happen in such subtle ways. Even like going back to when we were in school, I was having like posters all over our walls, and honestly, you know, having these romantic relationships that were non-existent with these people that didn't even know we existed. Is like, we fantasize about them being our husbands and all of that stuff. And so it's like, it's very scary how quickly something can move from you just admiring someone to you idolizing them. And like you said, the fact that Beyonce is so beyond criticism, people literally have got to a point where they have to mask Beyonce's name on social media if they want to criticize her. Like, they actually have to spell it differently, because she has fans who search comments to see what you say about Beyonce. Listen, if you guys see how much people have this, like this, the way they spell her name sometimes, it's so creative to spell Beyonce in a way that someone is not going to search up. Or they'll put that woman that's married to that man, Jay-Z, or something like that. People are so creative with it.
But you know, her biggest, if you look at Beyonce's hive, who her biggest supporters and fans are, you get to understand.
LGBT.
Huh?
LGBT.
That, and this is where her last album, why she got the Grammy, she referenced them. So when you look at that and you understand where it is and who's praising her and what's happening in terms of just spirituality in that space, there's a whole thing going on. That's her biggest fan base. That's why maybe even if the Christian community leaves, I don't think what this lady said. I think who this lady is talking to is more the Christian girl or the Christian guys, more than Beyonce's fans, because they're not going to listen to that's like the Christian community supporting Beyonce, probably 1%. So this message is really, you know, when the Bible says he's come for his own body, like that she's talking to the Christians, and if they choose to listen, you know, that's fine, but it's not going to go and impact the hive that she's hoping to maybe even reach. So I don't know. I think Beyonce is definitely big. I think the hive built her to be bigger than maybe even what she is, and she just doesn't, like you said, nobody can criticize her because they uphold it. But yeah, I don't know. I still do like Beyonce. I do. I respect her talent. I just think a lot of artists are influenced. I think what you said there, Esther, was also great about we have desensitized witchcraft. So much so with everybody talking about, what is this? Your star signs, horoscopes.
Energy. Yeah.
Crystals. Everybody's using crystals.
Yeah.
You hear it from Kim Kardashian, like her perfumes are based on crystals, like all these things, and we don't take that into account. We overlook it. But it is part of that whole thing as well. Like, it is part of witchcraft. I think most of these people have to believe in something to continue being successful. Definitely. What are they tapping into? Who are they praying to? And maybe sometimes maybe that, like the word says, they believe they're right. I want to hope. I think there's an assumption that we always assume that these people always know what they're doing. That sometimes maybe they're so blinded by their reality that it's up to us to make that decision. That's why this is quite important when you're telling people, like, read your Bible, like, it's about you. Beyonce is not going to say, oh, I'm not going to stop. And who knows when that's going to change? Who knows when God is going to convict her heart? Who knows when she's going? It's up to the Christians to make that decision. You can't wait for Beyonce to change first, and you can, change, because she's blinded by what's going on. The success is great, she's healthy, and who knows what I don't know how witchcraft works, but there's always an element of doing well for a very long time, isn't it? So I think maybe not everything is intentional as people assume, or like they assume that the person who's at the back of it really knows the reality of, like, knows the depth of what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. I said that because I said that there are people who, I guess the more you watch, I remember that book that I said, if you read it, you got to read it with the lights on. There are levels to this thing. I'm not the best person. I don't think, many of us will not be equipped, but there are levels to it. There are levels. They're literally like, there are witches. That's why even witches fight each other. There are levels to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So is Beyonce aware that she is speaking to not Jehovah? Yeah, she knows she's not speaking to the God that she once used to believe. But does she recognize that's a demon? I don't think so. I think she thinks it's part of God, whatever she now believes God is. And I think someone said something quite interesting who was part of this. She said, when you are tapping into spirits in the New Age and all this stuff and Reiki and all this stuff, they're benevolent. For most of the time, not everyone experiences that, but a lot of time you experience benevolence. So you think it's good. It feels good. So you're not going to assume it's bad. It feels good. And you get power. You can not everyone, but astro projects things, spiritual things occur and happen. And it does awaken their spiritual gifts. So that's why you see people who can give you predictions. They would likely, if they got saved, would be prophets, because they have the gift of seeing things. So I don't know. I do wonder how much Beyonce. Basically, let me say this: if she is aware, I'm scared for her. I think it's better that she's ignorant, because if she does come to Christ before she goes, the level of pain, obviously God will take it away, but the level of pain that she will have, knowing that she was fully aware, doing what she did, is like Paul knew that he killed believers, but he didn't know. He believed he was following Jehovah. And didn't recognize Christ was Jehovah. So even though he still battled with that, there was a level of ignorance. He didn't know. He wasn't awakened. But there's some people who know. There are demon worshippers, Satanists, that know that they believe that Satan is going to win in the end. They believe that lie. They like the depravity. So is she that? I don't know. It's difficult to say. I doubt, but maybe she is. Maybe she is, yeah. And we're all fooled because it won't. I said that last time I was saying this. We know this. Prince, Michael, they've been talking about. Beyonce probably the only big, massive artist of our time that doesn't talk about this stuff. But Prince and Michael were always talking about their confliction with the Illuminati, the confliction with all of these things that's happening in the industry. When even Kanye, we can all not agree or whatever. But when you get to a certain level, they start talking about it. Beyonce is the only one that's shush and quiet. What happened with Travis Scott? People have different conversations and that.
And everybody has forgotten that, right? Everybody's back to loving Travis Scott and buying his trainers and everything else. But I'm like, this guy had a whole astro world where people died and he was just acting wild. I'm over the internet. You see, when you start to preach, these people don't listen. And now people love him. I think he released a trainer like a month ago, 2 months, and everybody was like, I love him. So I'm like, the same guy who just asked, and his crowd is young as well with Travis Scott. So I'm like, and it's Black people agreeing to their kids going to this concert and listening to his music. His music is wild and weird, but because there's a duality between Travis Scott and Kylie, right? You like both, and there's an edge to it, and I feel like this thing is bigger than what we think, because it's deep. I don't want to get into it, but yeah. It's deep. It's very deep, demonic, and it's definitely happening with most artists. Billie Eilish, like, you must watch her perform online. You would be freaked out.
I always hear of her. I know she likes Rema, or no, she likes one Nigerian artist.
She's awkward.
But I don't know who she is. I know
She's
she looks
very
like,
big. She's a
but I've
big
never.
following, but she also gets very
Yeah.
possessed on when she's performing, like literally just X out. And it's, you can see it and you're like, my God, like, and people are like, oh, that's amazing. And you're like, no, that's not amazing. That's a spirit. And where do you think that spirit is going? And people just watch it and continue to follow the music because, again, it's part of the game.
You know, I was just gonna say last point is, you know, based on what you were saying about people not really knowing, I think that's where it's our responsibility as believers, if we really do, you know, understand that some people have scales over their eyes, is to uphold them in prayer. You know, it's like we can rebuke and we can call these things out, but at the same time, it's like, let's not just call it out and leave it at that and keep rebuking. Let's actually, if we understand fully that our fight is not against flesh and blood, and we understand that people literally have scales over their eyes, right? We know that people are completely ignorant to this thing. It's the same way with Eve. Eve saw the fruit and it looked beautiful to her, right? So the same way to these people, they're seeing something that's looking so beautiful. The enemy is showing them something that looks so beautiful, and they don't realize what they're actually ingesting, what they're taking in. And so we have to lift them up in prayers. We actually have to pray against these strongholds. We have to break down strongholds on their behalf, and that's what we're supposed to do. You know, I'm always reminded of scripture when Peter was in prison, and it says that they were praying fervently for his release. Like, they were all coming together praying, and what ended up happening? God released him, right? So if we understand that these people are actually in a stronghold, because before I gave my life to Christ, I was ignorantly there. I was getting myself involved in crystals and, you know, astro projection, because I was blind. Even though I was aware of God, there was, because of how it was presented, like Esther said, I didn't see as what I was doing was witchcraft. And because I wasn't fully doing these things, I was sort of like engaged in it here and there with tarot card readings. I'd watch stuff. It just started to look really great. And sometimes people are searching for something. They're seeking something, right? And that's where they find spirituality. There's a part of them that is seeking God, but they get deceived and they end up seeking spirituality. And why you find people say, I'm not a Christian, but I'm spiritual. I believe in spirituality. And then you find them ending up in the new ageism stuff and, you know, yoga and all of this meditation outside of your body. And so we have to really pray for people and, you know, to pray as if both things are true. Pray as if they do know what they're doing and they fully understand. And Beyonce is fully aware, because I'm sure, you know, she might have people around her that have brought this to her attention. And then also pray as if they're not aware of it. So, you know, that's all we have to do as believers, as the body of Christ. We just have to uphold each other.
Amen. Thank you, ladies, for your time. Thank you guys for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next video.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.